Hi, I'm Donna Shea, Social Emotional Learning Specialist in Massachusetts. And today I'm here with a video for kids about word problems. And I don't mean math. We're not going to be doing math today, those kind of word problems. But these are word problems that come up frequently in the social groups that I do. So I want to talk today about how some of the things that we say or how we say them doesn't help make us friends. It sometimes gets in the way. So the first thing that I notice that kids do sometimes, I'm going to move my video over here, is put downs. Okay, so this is when you're giving your own negative opinion about what someone else thinks or someone else enjoys. You can also think of it, someone told me once, as yucking someone else's yum. That's not my phrase, but I thought that it was perfect because sometimes we give our own yuck to what someone else really enjoys. Or having a better idea. And just last week in my social group, every time I brought up an idea for what we could play or what we could do together, one of the kids was going, oh, I don't like that. Oh, I don't want to play that. Ooh. And it was hurtful to me because I was trying to find some fun things to do, and he had to make a negative comment on everything that I mentioned, or I'm not going to do that type of talk. If you don't like something that someone else likes, keep it to yourself and find an opportunity to change the subject. So I was listening to all about astronomy and things in social group the other day, which is not a topic I have tons of interest in, but I politely listened to it for a while, and then I found a way for us to move on to a different subject that we could all talk about. Instead of saying I have a better idea, which when you start to think about it is a put down of another person's idea, you can say, I have a different idea. Now you're not putting the other person's idea down, but you're also having a chance to tell them what yours is. If you don't like something, someone offering, you can silently skip offering your opinion or doing whatever it is that isn't your favorite. You don't need to announce it every single time. And that's what I said to the guy who was giving me negative comments about the activities I wanted to plan. I'm like, you can just silently skip it, dude. You don't need to come. It's really okay. But constantly telling me that you don't like what I do is hurtful. Then we get into a word problem that I think about as overcorrecting other people. No one wants to be corrected. It makes them feel stupid, right? Correcting people frequently, whether you're right and they are wrong, is annoying. Most times, whatever it is simply not important enough to correct it. An example would be I have been corrected many times on how I say Pokemon or Pokemon or Pokemon. It doesn't matter, okay? It's a small thing, and there's no need to just stop what we're doing and correct me on it. So if you feel the need to correct someone, stop and freeze the words. Now, these words technically and actually almost always come before a correction. So you want to try very hard to notice if you're starting to say, well, technically or actually, and not use them. Don't do it. The next word problem that I'm going to talk about is what we call creepy talk. Creepy talk is there are certain topics that are off limits or that are about things that are aspects of our lives that are generally deemed sacred. That means, don't go there, off limits. Too much creepy talk will cause people to have weird thoughts about you. Now, when I'm talking about topics that you should not discuss, I mean that was my phone, sorry. I mean that in the context of social situations. So at a party, at a cookout, hanging out with friends. There are places and times to talk about difficult topics, but I'm talking about what you should not do when you're just socializing. So you want to avoid these creepy topics. Guns, fights, wars, death, cemeteries, alarming news topics, killings, and school shootings. These are all things that people bring up in social situations that don't fit and they don't belong there. And if you do it too much, people are really going to think that you're stuck on some creepy stuff. Other topics that are not made for friendship situations or social situations are what I call hot button topics, like pushing somebody's button and it will trigger a reaction, it will trigger a fight. Okay? So these are other topics that are not acceptable for social and friendly conversations because there's way too many different opinions on things and it can really cause a friendship to fall apart. You want to leave these topics to be discussed in the right time, in the right place, where they belong. Again, I'm not telling you not to, but these belong with family or in the right place at the right time. Politics is one of them. Political affiliation, that kind of means mostly like who you're going to vote for or what party you belong to. Religion, money, physical appearance, people's disabilities, LGBTQ issues, adoption, and race. Again, all very important issues, all belong in places where they should be discussed. Again, I'm just talking about you're sitting at the lunch table, you don't want to start off with these topics because it won't usually work very well, or it'll end up in some form of an argument. Then there are kids who use harsh and offensive words, and this can be a problem as well. So when you're frustrated and angry, there are words that get said that might cause you to lose your friends. There are other kids that have difficulty understanding that they come across as sounding harsh or sounding rude. They think they're just sounding what's called matter of fact, or being truthful. Saying something under your breath so someone else can hear you is just as insulting as saying it to their face, or more so. So these are the words that you don't want to use, okay? You want to avoid these: stupid, idiot, the R word, sucks, shut up, and swears. Now, a lot of you may be sitting there asking, what is the R word? So I will say it once, and then you'll never hear me say it again, but I want you to understand what word it is. The word is retarded, and it is hate speech for those people who have developmental disabilities. And there is a pledge that you can take online, the pledge to stop the word. So I would encourage you to do that. If that is a word that's in your vocabulary, you want to make sure that you remove it, as well as some of these other ones. Poor use of humor. Humor can be funny and super spot on. We get some really funny kids in my social groups, or it can be very insulting if you're using humor at what we call someone else's expense. Trying to be funny to hurt someone else for your own self-amusement is mean, and it's bad manners. And using sarcasm or adult humor with actual adults will almost always backfire on you. I tell kids a story about, I was in 6th grade and I walked up to my science teacher one day trying to be funny, and he wasn't a very tall man, and I said, "Hey Shorty, how you doing today?" I can't tell you how much trouble I got into. I got the talking to of my life, and you know what? I did deserve it. So be very careful where you try to use adultish humor, especially if you're like an early teenager or teenager. Humor works best when it's not directly aimed at a person, unless you know that person well and you know that they can take a joke. If you are laughing at someone else instead of with someone else, you have made the humor mistake. Okay? And if you don't want to be the butt of a joke, don't make someone else the butt of yours. It's pretty simple. There are other kids that have a word problem that is getting stuck on a topic. The guy with the bone is, you may have heard the phrase, like a dog with a bone. And that's when we get stuck on something and we just keep chewing on it and chewing on it. So that's what we mean by that. There are lots of kids who have great passions for certain topics or certain games, but not everyone in the world is interested in the same stuff, okay, or your stuff even. And if you never talk about anything else but what you like, it is going to be very hard to keep friends around you. So how do you do this? You ask a person if they like your topic a lot, a little, or not at all. Say Pokemon. Then you know whether you can talk about it a lot, a little, or you not at all and find something else to talk about. It's great to be a specialist or an expert in your topic, don't get me wrong, but make sure you know a little bit about a lot of different topics, like what everybody's watching on TV, or what the popular cartoons are, or some music, or sports. It helps you to know a little bit so that you can talk more generally when you need to. Make sure you let other people talk about their stuff too, and not just about yours. It will get boring for the other person, and they won't want to talk to you anymore if you don't allow them to talk about stuff they like. Then there's the word problem of too much talking. Some people talk too much. They might not realize they are, or they might be nervous, because when you're nervous, that might make some people do what we call nervous chatter. Speaking every thought that comes into your head can be exhausting for other people to listen to, and it sometimes causes you to make a random remark that it doesn't fit with anything else, and that can cause confusion in people. If you do all the talking all the time, people will start to avoid conversations or playing with you. So what do? You ask the other person questions and let them answer. Listen all the way through their answer, and listen to understand what they're saying, and not just wait so that you can reply. Ask someone you trust maybe to give you a signal that you're talking too much, or help you practice allowing other people to talk. This is great to practice with a guidance counselor, or maybe your family at home. Try adding 3-second pauses to what you're saying. It might create a tiny, tiny awkward silence, but believe it or not, that's actually a good awkward silence, because that gives the other person a chance to start talking. The another problem that I see with words is hijacking and one-upping, and I put them together because they're usually pretty connected. Hijacking a conversation is when the other person starts to tell you something, and you take the conversation over and talk about your own experience instead of listening about theirs. One-upping is related to that, because usually someone who's hijacking will also say that they've done it better, or they've been there too, or that's happened to them, or whatever it is. And so they make the conversation all about them, and then they tend to one-up whatever it is that you were trying to say or someone else was trying to say. So we want to work very hard here too on not interrupting when someone else is talking, and to let them finish. Ask questions or make comments on what they said when they finish, at least 2, related to what they're saying and not what you want to say. And let the other person have the joy or the pain of their experience without always sharing yours. It isn't always necessary for you to go, yeah, that happened to me too, or just let them have what they need to have and just be a good listener. This last one, I think this is the last one, I'm not sure. No, it's not, sorry. Shock talk. Shock talk is when you say things that are meant to shock other people or to try and impress other people. It's almost always not a good choice. Kids may say things, a lot of shock talk has to do with what I call peer pressure topics. Smoking, vaping, things that break some pretty big rules for kids. You don't have to use shock talk to have friends, okay? And you don't need it to get someone's attention. The best way, honestly, is to just be yourself. You're just fine who you are. And when you try to impress other people with this stuff, they don't get to know the real you. Toxic text is another big time word problem, especially because it's all like text words. One of the places that many people have word problems is when they use text or typing for their communication. So text, when you're using text to communicate, you're sending it in the voice that you hear in your head, but it's read by the voice that the other person hears in their head. And that can be 2 completely different ways of reading it. And so somebody can easily misinterpret what you're trying to say. The other thing that text is a problem is in chat or trolling. These are, someone spamming a chat trying to get people to argue or just being nasty. Trolling is the same thing. It's just using the messages to just get people angry and to get things going. So what you do here is you think before you send anything that is text-based. Don't say anything in a message that you wouldn't say to that person to their face. And trying to irritate people or get attention on purpose in a chat or on social media is a really fast way to lose potential friends. Not answering. This is, I believe, is the last one. And it's a word problem of a different type, but it still causes a lot of friendship issues for kids. Not answering when someone is talking to you is a word problem of a different kind. Not responding to someone who is talking to you feels very rude to the other person. And I know some kids who even make a noise, or they might growl instead of answering when someone's talking to them. And this can cause really weird thoughts in other people, like, why is this person like, growling at me? If you are so shy or so anxious that you can't answer people, or you end up making noises at them, that is a big enough problem to get some help with, from grown-ups that can help you. If that's not it so much, but you just don't know what to say, so you say nothing, you can actually practice things to say. Practice what you can say when someone says, how are you? That could be, I'm fine, or how are things? Things are good. I'm going on vacation next week. Those are the two most frequently asked questions. What you've been doing, how was your weekend, are other ones. And so you want to think about those questions that are going to come your way before you go into a social situation. Then you'll be ready with some answers and you'll feel a little bit more confident in answering the questions. So those are my tips on word problems. If you would like more tips on friendship, my friend Nadine and I wrote a book that has 500 of them, and that can be found on Amazon really easily. And if your parent is interested in the work that I do here in social groups at Peter Pan, we are doing them virtually now, so you can really attend from anywhere that you are. They are most welcome to take a screenshot and send along an email or a message to me, and I'll be glad to chat with them. So I just want to thank you again for stopping in and paying attention and listening to these videos that I hope are helpful for you in attaining some successful friendships and maintaining them. And I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video.